Like I said, I know most of the people in the room, but not everyone. My name is Dan Roselli. I'm the founder of Packer Place, the Entrepreneurship Center that you're standing in, which is great. So if you've never been here before, anyone first time in Packer Place, just out of curiosity? A couple folks, well, welcome. That's fantastic. So it's great to have you here. This is, we're a little past 9 years on Packer Place now. We do a community impact report. So our alumni company, a large part driven by a company called DealCloud. Where's Rob? I saw Rob over there. Our alumni statistics in 9 years, our company's just passed $2 billion in venture capital raised. Last year, I think there were somewhere in the neighborhood of $240 million in exits. We estimate around 2,500 jobs created. The space you're standing in, a little over 3,000 entrepreneurial events over the 10 years we've been open. It really is kind of become the heart and soul for the entrepreneurial community in Charlotte, and that's because the community comes out. So thank you for coming out. We started doing an event about a year ago with the idea of trying to bring in the community together. We stole the idea of, in the UK or in England, the idea of pubs. If you don't know, for pubs, actually came from the term public houses. And they were actually public places where you can go drink. And the idea was you'd come home for the end of the day, on your way home from work, you'd stop, you'd have a pint of beer, you'd meet some friends, you'd talk about what went on during the day. And it was just a way of building community. And so once a month, we turned the first floor of Packer Place into our own little pub. And so that's why we call it the Packer Place Public House. That went well, so we have free good beer and wine. So if you're watching online, if you come in person, you get food and beer and wine, so I don't know why you're watching online. As I said, please feel free to go ahead and get beer even as we chat. And then after a couple months, people said, wow, this is great. It builds community, gets people together, but wouldn't it be cool if we could put some content in there? And so we decided to do a chat with an entrepreneur as we do this, just talk about his or her journey and story. We want to find people that have interesting journeys. I called out Rob already. Rob has come and done this for us before. Angel has done this for us before. Who else has been at one of our public house guests before? Oh, you're over there. Priya's over there. So a whole bunch of people have done it. It's great. Since we don't have an actual fireplace in Packer Place, we have a keg. So being entrepreneurs, we do a keg side chat instead of a fireside chat. So that's a little bit of the background on what we do and how we do it. Tonight's guest, Michelle, you can come on up and join me, is Michelle Buelow. And we're going to talk a little bit about her entrepreneurial journey and her story. So if you could, how about a big round of applause for Michelle? So I forgot to tell you, part of the way I do this is to keep it really informal and casual. Is my timer, although I actually do a timer now, is a pint of beer. It takes about as long as me to drink a pint of beer, because then I know we've talked long enough and it's time to kind of move on. And we can't cover everything, but the idea is it's interesting enough that you know a little bit about Michelle's journey and want to talk more. And so it's kind of a teaser, if you will. And that way we kind of keep it short as well and keep it fresh and getting too long. So this is my timer as well as my refreshment. So that's great. So first of all, tell us about your business, because now some people, and I think Juan, I'm not sure Juan Garzón is here tonight, and he might be at the CLT Jewels event. But Juan tells me that the story they wrote about you was like the #1 story of all time in Star Charlotte. Did you know that little fact?
It was an amazing story because I think it's an amazing publication, and I had an amazing interviewer. So yeah, it was a really, really well done piece.
Very cool. So some people probably do know the story, and you brought some friends tonight, which is great. But assume for a second people don't know the story, and the people that watch it later don't know the story. Tell us about the business, and just start with the basics, what it does, what you do.
Sure thing. So Bella Tunno is a purposely fun baby and children's accessory brand with a mission to end hunger in children. We didn't really start with that mission necessarily.
So tell us that journey. You started in one place, because you and I talked a little bit ahead of time.
Yeah.
You started in one place, but you started with the idea of wanting to create I'm not sure you call it a social entrepreneurship project, but a business that gave back and had value. You didn't know that term. Yeah. So I love it when people are social entrepreneurs and they don't even know they're social entrepreneurs.
No,
so where did the idea come from? How did it start? Tell us that, and then tell us the journey.
Sure. So, my story isn't one I would wish on any of you, and I actually pray that none of you ever experience my story, but I graduated from college, and growing up on this really, really pinpoint on a map type small town, I just thought I needed to do these big things. And in my mind, big things meant promotion and and money and international trips and all that. While I was recently out of school and climbing the corporate ladder, and that's really what I cared about, that was my number one priority. My brother was actually struggling with drugs and alcohol, and he had been struggling since he was 14, and I was 11 at the time, and he had been in and out of rehabs, and that had been a huge piece of his story. And if anyone knows anything about drug and alcohol, it's the whole family story. It's not just one person's story, so it was all of our story. And as I'm 26 and I'm running a brand strategy department, and I've done Big 5 consulting, and I'm getting all these gold stars, and I'm thinking, this is what success is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what life's about. I want more. I can't wait.
This is why I went to college.
Yeah, this is it. I got out of that small town. I'm really going to make something of myself, you know. I'm thinking all that, and my brother, who happened to be my only sibling and best friend, he was really struggling. He was in a bad place, and on August 5th of 2003, we got that call that nobody wants to get, that he wasn't in a car accident this time, he wasn't in rehab, he hadn't flatlined, he was actually gone. And it was crazy how in that moment, everything stopped. Every minute felt like a year. I mean, I just was trapped in my own body. I was trapped in my own lifetime. I was trapped in my own disappointment in myself of looking at the world in such a materialistic way, such a superficial way. And so I quit my job, and I wanted to take care of my mom and dad and make sure that they'd be okay. But I really had no desire to get back to the corporate world. Everything I put into, I guess, the past 7 years of my life felt meaningless. And so I really went into a pretty sizable depression. Poor Todd, we had just been married for a year. It's not really what he signed up for. But he stuck around. He's a good one.
He's a good publicist too, by the way.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he puts me out there. Anyways, I really didn't do anything for a year. I really didn't. I just kept trying to quit my job, and they kept giving me workers' comp or whatever it's called to be like, you'll be back. And I knew in my heart something had changed. It had changed forever. And so Todd and I realized we were pregnant, and I kind of came out of this. At this moment, it was almost about a year after my brother died, so it was 2004. I had this moment where I almost had a reawakening. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that the rest of my life would be dedicated to helping other people not go through what my family had gone through. And so because I was pregnant, I started making things for my soon-to-be daughter. It wasn't pretty, but I was self-taught in sewing, and I would make some stuff, and
I'm just picturing these little stick figure sweaters.
No, I know. Gosh, that'd be fancy. It was like a rectangle because I couldn't do corners. I couldn't do anything. It was terrible. But I would make like bird claws. I mean, truly the most basic of rectangles. And I started giving those to my friends for many reasons. One, it's all I had because I didn't go out of the house. But two, it was just the only way I could really show love at that point. So anyways, they would say, there might be something to this. This is a different look. There's a market for something that's not just like ducks and trucks and getting them out there. And I had a very fashion forward view on what I wanted baby products to be. Long story short, Bella Tunno really got started because I was committed, along with Todd's help definitely, to trying to start a discussion that could break the stigma around drugs and alcohol, because my brother was the funniest, kindest, smartest, just coolest person I've ever been around. Mm-hmm. And the fact
you said he was your best friend?
Oh gosh, yeah. Every single day I miss him, but the fact that when you pass that way, that cloud that hangs over you is, oh, he was a drug addict. Yeah, sorry, that's unfortunate. No, he wasn't. He was this academic, and he was this giving person. He was so much fun. And so I decided at that awakening point that I would start a foundation in his name, the Matt Tunno Make a Difference Fund. And through that, we would commit to changing destructive cycles, the number one priority being drugs and alcohol. I didn't know how to fund it, started making baby products, and here we are.
So why, so maybe it's because you're doing baby products, but why not go back and do social work, go back and run a nonprofit? Why do a business with that mission? What was the thinking there? Or was it just you were making the products and it was just one foot in front of the other?
think I've just always been very business-minded. That's what I wanted to do when I came out of college. Not start a company, but I loved being around business, being around that culture. I don't feel like I picked this. That's the truth. I kind of feel like it picked me. It was a point in my life where all I knew was put one foot in front of the other, and sewing these products was what I did. And to be honest, things kind of fell into place. I mean, who starts a business in Charlotte, North Carolina that has never had a business, that's never worked retail, that's never sewn a day in their life, and Target knocks on their door 18 months later, or the Gap knocks on their door? It was one of those things that I truly think was a little bigger than me.
Okay, so I want to talk about that, but we need to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So design, you were not a designer. You didn't go for fashion. It just kind of happened. How do you deal with something when you maybe don't have the natural skills, but you want to go do it? How do you tackle that?
You got the will, not the skill, right? I mean, I would choose the will any day, and you learn from your failures. So the only commitment I really made to myself was I'm not going to fail at the same thing twice. I'm going to learn from that every single time. And I will tell you, there were so many more failures than successes, and my team can attest, there still are.
Do you have a most hilarious failure?
As a parent, I definitely do. I got that question the other day. I don't think any of those failures were hilarious because they cost a lot of money. But I
Welcome to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I do remember the first time we launched into Target. I didn't know anything. I came back from that meeting and I remember calling Todd and being like, Todd, I told them we were EDI compliant. You got to figure out what EDI is. What that is, what that means. But when we shipped, it was our first shipment that was coming international, really. And I didn't understand case packs. I didn't have a Cameron on my team at that point, so I had no idea what that meant. I just thought you put that number in the box. And so that's what we communicated. And when it landed in the US, an entire container of products was packed 100% wrong. They all had to be repacked. Of course, we missed the shipping time frame.
That's not a big deal on your first shipment to Target.
Not at all. I think they really appreciate
They're very understanding.
that. We didn't work with Target too much longer after that. You want to know how that story ended? We did get the business back, and that's what being an entrepreneur is, right?
Yeah, cheers. Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. You had about 5 major entrepreneurial mantras in that story, right? From the fake it till you make it to the just fighting through and sheer willpower to I'm sure you probably repacked that stuff probably on your kitchen table or something like
Pretty
that.
much.
Yeah, right. So that's great. Well, so tell us. So to go back, you mentioned you started, and 18 months later, Target's knocking on your door. So let's fill in those blanks. What happened in that 18 months?
So I had heard from all my friends, you've got something here, you need to go do something, but they weren't my friends. And they wanted me out of my pajamas, and they wanted me to be like productive again. And so I said, I'm going to take my little bag of goodies I made appointments with 11 boutiques in Charlotte. And I didn't go in and tell them my story. I didn't want them to feel bad for me or pity me. I wanted to know if I had a true business in front of me. And that day, 10 out of the 11 placed orders.
That's
And
fantastic.
so it was really exciting. It really was.
That's got to be an uplifting moment.
It was, and
especially through the journey.
Yes, and we got the 11th last year at New York Now, which is a little better. So we got them all eventually. But we
Remind
went,
me not to piss you off.
it's sweet, my passive aggressiveness. It'll always feel kind. So we, one of those stores, the Milky Way here in Charlotte, said, you gotta go to market. You gotta do this wholesale thing. And she connected me to a showroom at market, and I went down and I had this little table, just a little round tulip table, and I had my stuff out, and I expected, maybe 10 more orders, and we walked out there with 57 more orders. And then we had a couple more showrooms ask us, will you be in our showroom? We really love your products. And so at that point, it felt like a brand was brewing.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like the fun that we wanted to start in my brother's name might actually have a chance of moving forward.
Interesting.
And so from there, it kind of snowballed a little bit. And then the funniest story that I think has ever happened is it was right before the holidays, and I got an email, and it was from the Target Innovation team, and they said, heard about your brand, we love what you're doing, we'd love for you to come up, and we want to buy your products. I said, this doesn't happen, And so I called the number at the bottom. Of course, she was already on vacation.
You thought it was a Bob's Target in Wyoming?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much right. And so I guess Todd and I decided decided it was worth it to go because I'm like, I'm either gonna step off that plane and there's gonna be a windowless van and we will never see each other again, or this is the biggest break of our lives. And I don't know what that says about what Todd thinks of me, but he's like, go. So I went and I walked in there and they said, what'd you bring? And I showed them what I brought and they're like, yeah, take that. That does not happen, y'all. In 15 years of retail, it's never happened again. It was the craziest thing, but they loved what we stood for.
Yeah.
They loved the brand we were building, and we ended up launching in the parent, inventor, and cap pre-recession.
Very cool. So the product was cool and innovative, but was the brand always story forward? Did you tell the story? And then you and I talked about the fact that you started in one place, but you also had to pivot on the story too. So talk a little bit about that journey.
So I don't think we've never sold a product without giving back. So the idea of really trying to make a living while making an impact has been ingrained in everything we've ever done. But because the story was so personal, and because it had to do with drugs and alcohol, and because it was my own brother, I had a really hard time sharing it. A really hard time talking about it. It's actually just kind of recently that I've realized maybe I can do a better job with that, and that my whole goal is to break the stigma, and if I'm quiet, what good is that doing? But it was hard for me. So on the back of the packaging and on the bottom of the website, it would say a portion of all proceeds go to the Matt Tunno Make a Difference Fund, which meant the world to me. But like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
That doesn't tell you anything. And in our own community, we were adding rooms to the Charlotte Rescue Mission halfway house. We were doing extreme mission makeover projects. We were doing Posh with Purpose one-night shopping events to put 30 clients through Dove sets. We were doing really meaningful work, but our clients didn't know. And at the end of the day, when I really thought about it, I was like, it's kind of selfish. They're supporting our brand, and they don't even get to reap the benefits of the life-changing work that we're doing. So it was back in 2014, and we had to totally reinvent our brand after the recession. I mean, just completely. No products that we sell now were sold then, no manufacturers we worked with then do we work with now. It was a complete, let's grow up and get serious if we want to live in this retail world. Around that same time, I read a statistic that said 13 million children in the US go to bed hungry. That's 1 in 6. It's like, that can't be. That cannot be. Not in this country, right? So I fact checked that, no shy of 19 times, and it was actually true. And then I read a little further, and what I found out was there is a correlation between children that grow up in food insecurity and adult addiction. It's a little bit of the scarcity issue that can lead to hoarding or overuse. And that was enough for me. I was like, I love children. I can't imagine my children being hungry. That's a problem that we can take a bite out of. That is a problem that we can help solve, and that is a problem that our customer is going to be so excited about, but it still fed my personal passion of drug and alcohol rehabilitation.
Sure.
And we committed as a family, and our team stands behind us in this. We still do a ton of the Charlotte Rescue Mission.
Sure.
So much, but where everything started to hit this awesome stride was when it all aligned. And we found the purpose that we have committed to now, which is one product sold means one meal donated to a child in America, and then international, we work with a different partner. Once we hit that stride, it had this magic effect. So what happened was, I feel like it really united our team. We were all so excited about that. We all felt like it's actually one of the business development goals, the Sustainable Business Development Goals by the UN.
Yes.
We're part of helping that. It's number 2, no hunger. And we're like, we can be part of that. But then it empowered all of our sales reps. We have like 92 sales reps around the country. And instead of telling them what they sold, we would start telling them, this is how many meals you gave. And we would reward them, like our top sales reps, when we hit a million meals, we had a necklace made by homeless people out in LA to reward them, and it said give, and it was a reminder of all the good work they're doing. And so it was one of those things that it was uniting our team, and it was empowering our sales force, and then it was attracting people that wanted to be part of it, because at the core of who they are, people want to help. And sometimes they don't know how. Sometimes they don't know where to jump in or how to get involved. But I swear people came out of the woodwork to want to be a part of this mission and support us in some way. So we were doing it because we knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But the effect it's had, the growth that it's turned into, the meals that we've been able to donate this year, we're now at 2.7 million meals, and by the end of the year, we'll hit 3 million meals.
That deserves a round of applause, don't you think?
I have the best team in the entire world, and they're so focused on that. I love it, and it's why we're growing.
Yeah, it is interesting, you know, for most entrepreneurs, they will tell you that how they recruit good people is they connect what they do to a mission larger than themselves, right? And that's what gets people to go through all the trials and tribulations of working a startup, is they believe in what the company's doing. Lots of companies kind of have to stretch to do that, but for you, it really was the core of how you started. It's very authentic, and it feels that way.
It was.
So talk about the growth. So some of this growth is starting to happen. What were some of the challenges? You mentioned like shipping internationally. You mentioned, you know, having to redo the entire company in manufacturing. It just sounds like huge, really daunting challenges. How did you tackle that as a founder?
Yeah, well, when I look back, they do feel huge.
Yeah.
And I think we can all say that in companies, but when you just take one bite at a time and you stay focused on the end game, I think that's how you get through it. They were massive challenges. They still are massive challenges. We have 2 containers coming in late for Target again. Yeah. Like, it hasn't.
And by the way,
equation.
after the beer, we're all going to repack a few. If
Yes.
you're all just do 10 or 20, it'll be really fast. We'll be out by 10 o'clock. It'll be great.
That's right. No, I mean, the challenges haven't ended. It's staying in compliance. It's more eyes on you. It's just making sure that I'm being a good leader to a team of women that I love like family, and I want the best for them. So
What does being a good leader mean to you?
So I think leadership is connectedness, really. I think it's having this vision and staying connected to the vision. I think it's bringing a team together and being the connector in that team and pulling out their strengths so that they feel more connected to themselves. I think it's leading in a way that your customers feel a loyalty and a relationship with you without even knowing you, because they can feel that that brand means something. I think leadership is truly connection, because if you're just up here and you're trying to give everyone things to do, there's just no respect or relationship in that. So I think, I don't know. Does that work? How you
It works great. No, she's like, am I done yet? Am I done yet? No, we're doing great. Well, I was told by a little birdie how much you love public speaking and how extroverted you are naturally. So.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to let you all ask some questions in just a minute, but I do want to ask a little bit about the future. Where does this go? You built such an interesting and really compelling story and company and team. Where does this go? Where do you want this to be?
So, as I mentioned, by the end of this year, we hope to have fed 3 million kids, but there are 11 million children hungry in the U.S. right now, which I will take this moment to say has recently gone down from 13 million. So just last week, they announced that it's not 1 in 6 children that's hungry every night, it's 1 in 7. So the needle is moving, which is so exciting, but we gotta feed them all. You know, we have to. So we need to get to a point where hopefully on a yearly basis, we're doing 11 million meals. That's kind of more of a 10-year goal.
Yep.
I think we're growing internationally. We just got a lot of products tested and certified, and we have a great design team, and we can do a lot of custom work, and so international growth is going to be a big way, and then key accounts. It's just been really fun to do custom work, so we work with Target and Nordstrom and help me out, World Market and Bye Bye Baby, and a lot of really fun accounts, and they all need something different, whether it's different packaging or just different SKUs or different designs. And so there's a lot of growth opportunity there. We've also, I don't know what you really want to hear, but we also have developed a sub-brand for mass market. So we want our mission to be accessible to everyone. We want them to feel good about giving meals, but not everybody can buy a $15 bib. Some people can buy a $10 bib. So we had to work really hard to make sure that we're still telling a value story in new molds and new products that can be a mass market brand called Tunno Tots while still preserving the equity of Bella Tunno because we've worked really hard for that. So meals is the main goal. That's our measuring stick. It really is.
You mentioned international. Does the story and the mission resonate internationally as much as it does domestically?
It does, and here's why. Because we have a partner, the Global Food Banking Network, that we have partnered with, so when we sell internationally, the meals stay there.
Yeah.
So who doesn't want to feed children, whether you're in France or Canada or Russia or wherever? So it does. It's a powerful message, and the problem is everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we all want to be part of that solution.
Well, good. I want to see if we have questions out from the audience here, people that may want to know more about your story and journey. Folks, there's a question. Go ahead.
You mentioned that your team was made up of a lot of women that you feel like are your family and your sisters. Did you specifically seek out to hire women? I mean, babies in general tend to go well.
Come from women, yes.
Yeah.
It's also part of the branding and your vision for all of this.
So that's a really good question. I didn't set out to hire women. I will say I love that we're all women, and the women that do have children are naturally experts. So they add this extra layer of almost focus group quality feedback that's awesome. I would not be opposed to hiring a man, but I will say the top talent that has come to me has been women, and I've just learned to hire people to fill my voids and to fill the business voids, and the way women have stepped up is amazing. I also, I really believe in the power of women and uplifting women. I'm a global ambassador for Vital Voices. I'm part of the Winning Women program, and when you invest in women, the statistics show that they invest in the community. And I'm not saying men don't, I'm not here to make a strong statement. You should have been done with your beer. That is not what I'm saying. Men are lovely and they care about the community and all that. But it is a proven fact that when you invest in women, they invest in the community, and I've seen that. My team shows up at the food pantry every single month. It was pouring last month. They were out there in parkas just getting rained on. One of them had a first date afterwards and went soaking wet, but she didn't leave. Like, that's the level of commitment that they're investing in the community.
Yeah, well, not to talk politics, but I'm relatively progressive in my viewpoints. I've been in some discussions with people about that, and I said, men have basically run the world for the last 2 centuries, so let's just have it exclusively run by women for 2 centuries, and then we'll even it up. Let's see how that goes. And I think everyone's like, that could be much better than our current world. So, all right, other questions from the audience? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So it seems like you ended up with the social business and you didn't plan on a social business. And this is something that's always really interests me. Mm-hmm. So how do you think it has helped you grow having that backstory of being able to give back to the community?
So just in case the question was heard, kind of the social business, not intending to do it, but that would happen, how has that kind of helped the backstory in the growth?
Well, I think it's been monumental in our growth, and I think it goes back to people wanting to be involved in something that they feel like is changing the world, changing their community. I think one thing that I would say is when you build a model for social good, you incorporate it in from the beginning. And that's what we did, because then you're not looking and saying, do I have enough money to donate this month? Am I making payroll, and can I help? You incorporate it in so that you never look back. And when you can stand in front of people and say, we have never sold a product without giving back. We have kept ourselves so honest about that. In the bad times, in the times that I wasn't paying myself, we still gave to other people. That's what I think the growth is about. Having that story that's not just about giving back, it's about we will do that before we do anything else. That's where the power comes from.
Cool. There's another question back there.
What had to change so much? Post the financial crisis and the product line, and what had to change? I get like money dried up, but like is the product what they like? What did you have to change to make that work?
So the question was more about during the crisis and having to retool almost everything. What was that like? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so you asked what changed? Everything. Literally everything. I mentioned that Target was the first time we ever did international manufacturing, and right after we did that, that plant closed. So our one contact for international manufacturing is now gone. We came back stateside, and there was a cotton crisis, and we only were using cotton goods, and cotton went up 20%. So we're like, that's not going to be a material that is sustainable long term. Our factories were really raising prices because they realized that you couldn't manufacture anywhere else in the US. So we ended up having to change the product mix. And one of the reasons, it wasn't just cotton, it was cotton because of pricing, but it also wasn't proprietary. I mean, anybody can make a cotton bib. Anybody that can sew can do these things. So the products that we started with, there was nothing that unique about them. So in terms of brand ownership, it wasn't like, oh, that's Bella Tunno. It was like, is that Bella Tunno, or is that this brand, or is that this brand? And we wanted to put a stake in the ground and say, we got to become who we are. And it might not be for everybody, but we did product complete redesign. They're very ownable products. So we own the molds. It's mostly silicone stuff, but we own the molds for the bibs. That's a Bella Tunno bib. Nobody else has that. That's a Bella Tunno teether. Nobody else has that. And then in going to China, the margins gave us room to grow. The margins gave us room to invest back in ourselves, because we've never taken money, but at the rate that we've grown recently, there has to be margin there because someone's got to invest in us. So it turns out it's us. But literally everything changed. The branding, the packaging, where we manufacture, the products we manufacture, the team. There was no team. There was a Todd and a Michelle team prior to that. So now we have amazing women that are running the company, really.
That's great. Well, I'm going to end this there because the beer is finally empty. There you go.
Okay.
And the whole idea is to have you want to continue the conversation, right? It's not to get all the information out of you. Have such a fascinating story. We could talk literally for hours and probably engage people. So hopefully you'll take the time to come talk with Michelle or follow up with her as well. We'd be really remiss if we didn't talk about if people want to support the company and buy your products online, in retail. Do the sales pitch for a second.
So bellatunno.com has all of our products. You can buy them at Nordstrom, you can buy them at Buy Buy Baby. We have a line in Target. We'll have an end cap and a side cap in Q4 called Tunno Tots. That's a little bit more price sensitive, slightly different design and molds. If for some reason you need a gift around January, we're launching this new collection called the Kindness Collection, which is truly the thing I've been most excited about pretty much in years from a design standpoint. We've taken mantras that we believe in, like stand together, see the good, world changer, choose kind. And we've put those on a collection of our best-selling products that you can buy at bellatunno.com, but we're gonna give 2 meals instead of 1. And then it's our 15th anniversary, and a lot of people celebrate with like champagne and cupcakes, and that's all good. But we want to do a bib that says this bib feeds kids, and we're gonna give 15 meals for our 15th anniversary for every single one of those sold.
That's fantastic.
So there's some really cool things coming up that align our missions even more tightly with our products, and we're hoping that through those product launches, we can just exponentially get more meals.
Well, I will tell you a couple things. I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
I think the community does. Also for people who maybe don't naturally like speaking and telling the story, and you mentioned it took you a little while to get there. One of the best ways of encouraging people to do that more, which I think you should, is to give them a really nice round of applause. Thank you.